Hey there, Julia here. Today we are taking a look at a few different ideas if you want to start a pen and ink journal, or if you've already started one and you're not sure what all to put in it. I have some inspiration for you both inside of my ink journals here and a couple of ideas I haven't even deployed yet myself. Keeping an ink journal has been one of my favorite things over the past couple of years. But let's get started with the first one, which is documenting your currently inked. And I feel like this is one of the most common spreads to include in an ink journal. And there's a variety of ways to do this. There's a lot of really fun currently inked videos here on YouTube. But no matter how you decide to set it up for yourself, you're basically just taking a snapshot in time of the pens you have inked up. I like to do just like a little swatch, write out the name of the pen, the nib, the ink that's in it, and then just add in another line for a writing sample. And I've done this a few different ways in the past, but all in all, they serve the same purpose. The next idea is adding some sort of wish list to your pen and ink journal. And this year I've kept it super simple, just a bullet list of things that I would like to get this year or just in general. You could make this a little bit more robust by adding the price, where you would like to get it, if you have any discount codes, things like that. But this works really well for me just having a little bullet list. I also have this little loves section down here for anything that comes out that I necessarily don't feel like I have to jump on at any point, but just releases that I think are really great. Another fun idea is documenting all of your bottles of inks, all of your samples of inks in any one particular year. So in 2024, I documented that this way. I have all of my full bottles grouped together, I think by brand. Yes. I have them all grouped together by brand here with just a little swatch and a little writing sample. And then I also have my ink samples written out here as well, along with some ink mixes and the diamine inknet from 2023. So I think this is a cool idea just to take a snapshot in time of your collection and just see where you were at the beginning of the year versus at the end of the year. My next idea comes into play if you're looking at this and thinking, I have way too many bottles of ink, I have way too many samples of ink, I'm not gonna document all of that. Totally get it. Definitely not in the cards for me this year either. But what you could do is pick a few favorites from each brand, maybe your top 5 or so, and swatch those out in here as well, because I think that would be really fun to look back on year over year. My next idea I have fleshed out a little bit more this year, but it is documenting new pen days. And so for me, that right now looks like this. I will take a photo of the pen or pens in this case, pick a few matches, like some initial matches. So if I want to ink it up right away or the next time that I go to ink it up, I have some pics already to go. And I think it just looks fun, kind of getting the idea of what the colorway of the pen looks like in ink. And then I write just a few sentences about my initial impressions. And so I will dip the new pen in one of these inks and then write my thoughts. So here's just a few examples of that. For new ink days, let me see if I can find one. For new ink days, I've done a few different things. For Kirasame, I did a swatch. I chose 3 other inks that I thought oh, no, I didn't. I chose 2 other inks that I thought looked similar, just so I can see what could be dupes for an ink if I ran out of this or ran out of this, I could use Kurosame just to, like, group some inks together visually, and then I write my thoughts on the ink or any kind of fun storytelling that comes along with it as well. And sometimes I don't do any of that, I just watch it. Here's another example of a new ink day. I just swatch it and then write a little blurb about it. My next idea is picking and documenting favorites. So, whether that is picking a favorite pen and writing a full page of lyrics or poems or just thoughts, to picking favorite red inks like this or orange inks. I'm still at it choosing favorite purple inks. But regardless, I think this is really fun to document again, to look back on year over year or after some time has passed to see if you still feel the same way. And plus, it's just really fun to look at similar ink colors or a color category on one page. Another one of my favorite things to document in my ink journal are any sort of ink swaps or gifted inks and or pens. Here's an ink swap with Priscilla, and I swatched the inks that she sent over along with doing a little writing sample. And if there are any fun little stickers or a note, I love adding that in the spread as well because it gives it a little bit of that like memory keeping vibe. And I just think that's really fun to include. Here's another ink swap. Here's one with Mark from Mark Your Pages. And then one of my latest ones here and here. So yeah, these are just really fun to look back on. And if this ink is my new favorite, I know that it came from Robin, and I just think it makes the ink journal that much more special. Another idea that I have not yet done in my own ink journals is documenting different ways to swatch or like the ways that you enjoy swatching. So in my little mock spread here, I've swatched with the size B calligraphy nib, a glass stir, a Kakimori stainless steel dip pen, my trusty mini plastic spoon, a number 8 paintbrush, a metal measuring cup, and a plastic bag. So I just think this is really fun if you're going for a specific look when you're swatching to have a reference for that, or if you see someone online swatching in a cool way. It could be a place to try new ways to swatch. You did see earlier a little bit of me mixing inks and how I document that in here, but that is another idea, is to play around with ink mixing. And these are my 3 latest custom ink mixes that I wanted to document. So I have a nice big swatch of the ink. I, of course, love to name them. So we have that here. And then the recipe if I want to make this ink again. Now, the recipe portion is a new portion for me. I need to go back and figure out how I made some of these other mixes that I really love, and maybe we'll do that together in a future video. But this is obviously really fun to look at, but it's also a reference point for remaking ink samples. Here's another idea that I have not yet used in either of these ink journals, but I'm sure that at some point I will. And it's utilizing your pen and ink journal for pen and ink specific information. So this is just an example of fountain pen nib parts. So this is the shoulder of a nib. This is the breather hole of a nib. And it's just a fun reference, especially if you're newer to fountain pens and you want to get all the vernacular right and all of that. So this is just a cool reference. It also has parts of a pen. So the nib, the feet, the section, the ink reservoir, the body, the cap. So I could definitely see something similar to this if you were learning about what sheen is, what baby bottom means when it comes to your nib, things like that. Sort of turning your pen and ink journal into a reference point as well. I also made this as an idea, just this sort of mock spread, because I didn't like how I documented pens purchased and sold in my 2024 ink journal. So this is probably more useful in this format. So yeah, here you're just tracking the pens that you purchased in a year, or at least in the time frame that it takes for you to fill up your journal. And so I just have the dates that the pens were purchased, what the pen was. If you wanted to build this out a little bit more, you could also write in the cost for the pen and maybe where you got it. For pens sold, in this example, I only have like the date that the pen was sold, the pen, and then in parentheses for how much. Again, you could build this out a little bit more and maybe include who you sold it to or where you sold it. Or if you had like a profit or a loss in selling it. This next idea I think is pretty essential to my pen and ink journal these days, and I will take you through it. So I have my currently inked, and then typically around mid-month, I like to do a check-in. So check-ins is the idea here. When you check in, how you check in, totally up to you. But I'll just take you through how I do them. So I have a mid-month, and I love it because it gives me more opportunity to write with a pen that's inked, for one. But I just go through and I write what I've uninked, if anything, like if I've just had it with a pen or I was just like, no, not vibing it, and I uninked it. I note that here. If I've written anything dry by this halfway point, I will put that here. That typically means that I really liked it, especially if it's dry by the mid-month time. If I've added anything to the rotation, I'll mark that here. Typically, I will swatch it as well with little stamps. See if I can find an example of that. Yeah, so I did add 2 inks here and just did like a cute little stamp and swatch situation there. And then I write a little blurb about things that I've been loving so far in the month. So an example here is the Journalized Dark Matter ink is really enjoyable. Love the color in my planner. And I also put the mini stub nib is fun. On the flip side of that, I write down any disappointments I've had so far in the month. So if nibs weren't performing as good as I would have hoped, if pen and ink pairings aren't to my liking, just things like that I will write about here. And then anything that really doesn't fit into these other categories, or if I'm writing about the lineup in general. So here I have overall a really solid lineup. There's just a few issues that needed to be addressed earlier in the month, but everything has been great to write with. And then I write the date of when I did the mid-month check-in. And then at the end of the month, I check in once more to do a final review of everything that I've inked for the month. You can do this a number of ways. This could just be a reflection if you just wrote out what you thought of your pens in rotation. If you don't do a month-to-month currently inked, it's just a check-in point to see how you're liking everything. But for me, I like to go ahead and rate the pen experience for the month, the ink, and then I add those together to get a pairing score. And then from there, I pick a favorite for the month. And I just think it's fun to do this because I'm a little bit of a nerd, but also there's a trail. So if I'm having issues with a pen, if I'm not loving an ink in multiple pens, I have documentation of all of that. And it just helps me be a little bit more informed about what I have. And if something is just not working out, I can see that and then I could adjust accordingly. I can put something up for sale or gift it, etc. So I just like having points to check in on what I'm using. And then here's a little bonus for you, giveaway win. So yeah, there you go. There are 12 ideas that you can use to fill up your pen and ink journals. Would love to hear more ideas in the comments. And I just want to know more about your ink journals out there in general. We don't see these enough, I feel like, and they're just so fun. You may or may not know that this ink journal was a little bit of a struggle for me this year. This is the second setup that I had to do of it because I had a little bit of a paper issue. So if you want to hear a little bit more about that paper issue and see the initial spreads that I set up in here, including one spread that I did not mention in this video, I'll leave that for you right here. Thank you guys so much for watching. You're always so awesome. I will catch you all in the next one.